shelter open yet? What hotel is there?
Sign back on.
So really, that's one of our favorites. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, I know.
I don't know. Did you hear that? Susan, that would Holly Hill.
We need to what?
He said, since you're going to be able to get down there.
Holly Hill said.
They'll be done before I get there. They're challenging you, Mayor.
Let me tell you, he was fired up when I saw him at First Step, so. John,
When you seen Bill?
I just saw him at First Step.
Today? Oh, yeah. Well, I had one today because we had a leak there.
I switched to stay at. Oh, he was fired up today, big time. Sapphire Falls. And to go to the water park, and we couldn't get a cabana in there. Told us we got to have a cabana to make it kind of work. Sapphire Falls. Because they don't have fast passes or anything like that.
So you get a cabana and you get a fast pass.
They don't really have fast passes. What they do is they have watches, basically.
Oh, yeah.
And you book times. I think if you get a cabana, you can book more slots.
Sapphire Falls.
An insurance payment. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think he's hoping.
Yeah. All right. That's it.
It's more like a motel style. Is it commando? Sure.
I'd like to call a regular meeting of South Daytona City Council Tuesday, July 11th to order. Looks like I'm a little tardy. Maybe you could give us a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Young.
Here.
Councilwoman Long. Here. Councilwoman O'Neill. Here. Councilman Schoner.
Here.
Mayor Hall.
Here.
Mr. Simpson.
Here.
Mr. Yarborough.
Madam President. Everybody would join you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Yarborough, give the invitation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, come to you this evening and ask that you be with us. We ask that you give us guidance, you give us the wisdom to make the decisions that this body should make on behalf of its constituents in this community. We ask that you be with this American. We ask that you continue to keep our soldiers safe. In thy name, amen.
Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the June 13th meeting. Move for approval.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda is citizens to be heard. This is the opportunity where citizens can get up and speak on anything on the agenda or not on the agenda. Mr. Cameron, if you would, please.
Good evening. I'm Jim Cameron, Senior Vice President, Government Relations, Daytona Regional Chamber. And I've been wanting to take this opportunity for quite some time, though, but I wanted to tell the rest of you on council, about Mayor here, and his participation and leadership on First Step Shelter Board. We very much appreciate y'all's participation. And I'm saying, just this man here he's been very instrumental in bringing up some good points and all, some of which I've repeated myself, quite often, though. I think things are really happening as far as moving forward with this First Step Shelter. Not as quick as we'd like, but very much excited about it. This is the most progress that I've seen, the most momentum built up in at least 15 years in addressing this issue, though. So, and again, I wanted to say thank you to the mayor there, but and at the same time, I also wanted to say thank you to your city manager, Joe, there. Because I've been working with him, with elected officials council on some other things in the past, but on transportation matters. So, anything you need from us, though, call.
You embarrassed me, but thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, thank you for the kind words.
Thank you
for the
so
work in the
much,
chamber.
folks.
Thank you. Anybody else in the audience like to speak on anything tonight? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the diocese city manager's report.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, attached or in your agenda packet is a revised budget workshop schedule, I think. If it's not, okay. What we noticed was the first budget workshop was scheduled as a standalone meeting for 6 p.m. on August the 1st. That is the night out against crime in the community. It would be bumping up against that event, coupled with the fact that traditionally we have a standalone if you think it necessary. The revised workshop schedule calls for your first workshop at 5 p.m. August the 8th, and then followed by your regularly scheduled meeting. Historically, that's when we give you the same presentation with your input individually reflected at the workshop. And of course, as the charter requires, it will be balanced. What you do with it after that is totally at your discretion. So if you don't have any problems, I would like for you to refer to that revised document. It provides for another workshop, other workshops as necessary, depending on the level of involvement you think is necessary after the first workshop. Secondly, most of you are probably aware, Nancy, I know you were out of town, South Daytona Elementary received a D this year, and that's the bad news. In our zone where our children go to middle school, it has jumped to a C, but the zone seems to be the issue and where our children are required to attend school. The mayor forwarded a letter, and we got a response back from the superintendent saying that there will be at a meeting in the future to tell us how we can partner with them to improve our grade at our local elementary school. It has as the mayor pointed out in his letter, and you should all of you gotten a copy of it, not only is it not fair to the children, it is an adverse economic impact to the community. Finally, some good news, and I think most of you are aware, somehow we survived the governor's veto and an appropriation that is being administered by the State Department of Environmental Protection to fully fund the septic to sewer hookups in our community. So you're aware of what is going on. We got a letter from DEP congratulating us. Isn't that nice? We'll have 24 months to implement the project. It should pay totally for anyone that has sewer available to hook up. Won't cost them a nickel. And if that isn't an incentive, you're going to have to look at having probably a minimum rate if they don't, or availability rate. But people I've talked to have received it well. We won't be in a position to award the contract until after next spring, after the funding period for St. Johns River Water Management District, because we anticipate taking that money and leveraging it with some CDBG funds and leveraging it for 33% funding from St. John's. So that would bring your total project cost for grant funds from $500,000 to $740,000. And based on around $4,000 a household, that should hook up 180 residents. It's a full ride. It'll be back before you many times for a full ride for the resident. Impact fees, hookup, employment, and closing out the old septic. We're looking at how other cities are administering. They're all over the place. Some of them are contracting it out. Some are doing it themselves. Some give you a list and we reimburse the property owner. I suspect what you're going to be looking at is a proposal from us where we hire one contractor based on a linear footage, so like a paving project that we would oversee and reimburse the contractor. I wouldn't particularly want to see city crews in there trying to hook up all these properties. But it's good news, and I think it's something that we should be proud of. We're doing our share to clean up the river, and we're doing the right thing, not only for the river, but for the entire environment and by residents. That's all I have to report.
City Attorney's report?
Just to update you, I was involved with a conference call with the attorney that we retained to help us with the cell tower transfer and T-Mobile, which is one of the co-locators there. They definitely want to stay. They recently invested significant sums in upgrading their equipment there. And just today I was forwarded, and I think Joe got also, is a copy of the proposed lease from T-Mobile that's being reviewed. So we haven't heard from AT&T yet, but we're all working with T-Mobile. That's it.
And preliminarily, if we're getting $800 a month for the lease of that tower, they're offering $2,000, just one penny.
Well, but that's not even, we haven't countered yet, so I wouldn't.
Well, it's not something that you vote on yet, but I'm just telling you preliminarily. So I'm thinking you're making the right decision and taking it over.
Next is old business. Seeing none, brings us to new business. Scott, if you would, Resolution 1701 by title.
Resolution number 17-10 by title only for first reading. A resolution of the City Council of the City of South Daytona, Florida, establishing a preliminary ad valorem tax rate of 7.8 mils per $1,000 of taxable valuation, representing a .834 mil or 11.97% increase above the rollback rate of 6.9960 mils as certified by the Volusia County Property Appraiser in order to support the city's annual operating and capital budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018, and providing an effective date.
I need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
All of you have spent an average of 2 hours going over the preliminary budget that we're hoping to submit to you. In that preliminary budget, we discussed with you a couple of concerns we have that's coming down the road, and one is a balloon payment in 5 years for a $4.1 million note that was refinancing a number of issues and projects in the city. That $1.1 million that's coming due can either be refinanced or we'll be in a position to pay it off, which was one reason that we're recommending that you consider going up on your tax rate from $7.40 to $7.80. That money would be set aside and be prepared for not only retiring that note, but put you in a position to prepare for maybe putting some more money away for the maybe a hurricane fund, so you're not in a position of having to borrow money down the road, and to build up your reserves, coupled with the fact that we're very anxious over what's going to happen with the constitutional amendment that will be for the voters in 2018 for another $25,000 homestead exemption. That's going to be about $135,000 fiscal note on today's estimate. When it goes into effect 2019, it'll be a lot more unless we're in another recession. That's got to be made up somewhere. If you remember in your budget that we submitted, we gave you a list of things that we need to be doing now, in our opinion, to prepare for the future. We also are in a position after October the 1st, and I'm getting off track a little bit, to have your reserves back up to 10%. Okay? But it was my understanding that this council was anxious to knock down some of this debt and get our reserves built up, and that's the reason that we're recommending this slight increase in the millage rate. You can always lower. It's very, very difficult to raise the millage rate after tonight. It will be advertising an increase in millage and, of course, an increase in property taxes to the city. I think it worked out, what was it, $6 a month for average household?
Yes.
Is what you're asking them to consider.
but I don't know. I've got a hard time swallowing a 10 or 11% increase. I know it's the max, that would be the cap, but I have a problem even proposing that at this point. The 7.4, keeping it and holding the line where it's at, that's one thing. I mean, you've got several revenue-generating perspectives that you may consider over the next year. I don't know.
Well, how do we raise money?
You've got several recommendations right in this book. I'd like to hear what the rest of you feel.
Well, I think, as the city manager said, we all spent a tremendous amount of time with the staff and going through this. For what it's worth, you can only slice it so many ways. I mean, the reserves, we've seen the challenges with we've had with the reserves in regards to the hurricane, where we're not getting the money for 12, 13 months later. I'm not necessarily saying I am happy with a % of increase that we have here either, but if we want the reserves, we want the savings and get the debt also paid off. And I do think it's responsible for us to look at this from a year down the road, what's going to happen with this constitutional amendment. Take it as an inexact science, but today at the executive committee for the Volusia League, there was 9 of us there from 9 different cities. I threw it out there. I said, who's having to look at rate increases because of what we're expecting down the road? All 9. So we're not alone in that and trying to be preemptive of how that's going to impact us. And we see it from the new impact. We're not going to, there's no other ways to slice and dice from where else are we going to get the tax revenue from? Now, like city manager said, you set the level and then we have a discussion about whether if we bring it down, we can't go any higher than what we set tonight, so.
Yeah, I can see both sides of the coin. I hate to raise it to 7.8. I also realize that if we do it tonight, we can always lower it. I guess I was thinking more of a compromise between the two, 7.6, which would be, 0.2 more than what we have here for 7.4. But that would be my suggestion. And the thing is, I do realize that if we set it high tonight, we can always lower it. But we can't lower it tonight and then try to raise it later. So, and at the budget workshop, I guess we would be able to discuss the details more.
Right. And in defense of Councilman Schroner, there are other things that we've outlined for you to consider. And I looked at it, I don't think I've a handful of my 30 years being here, I've ever come to you and asked you to increase your millage substantially. I just don't like that. It's like taboo. And even though, people charging half of what we're charging and bringing in other cities and bringing in more revenue per property, it just has, that never sinks in. We're looking at $135,000 to $140,000 with that other $25,000 exemption. Okay. I kind of looked at it like this: if you can increase your millage rate now, you'll be in a better position to absorb that loss. Does that make sense? It won't be as hard on you. Fire fees are great. We need to look at them. They're doing that. In South Florida, they're doing it. At least one city, as you know, here in the county. You're going to have to adjust and look at this refuge rate, I think, and that's going to have an effect. We do have some restricted reserves transferred to general fund unrestricted that's going to mitigate some of your debt. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be looking at this proposal from your manager if it wasn't for anxiety over that 2018 property tax exemption. And I just don't care. It's very difficult for the public not to vote themselves in a tax break. irresponsible, but it's very different.
I know that back in November, I talked about the debt, and I talked about our reserves, and I haven't let up on you one bit about the debt or the reserves. I don't know any other way to do some of this. I do know, Ralph, that like you, I'm looking at some of those other avenues of creating some funds, and I know the fire fee was one of the things that was brought to me at a Florida League of Cities event that I attended. It's going to be some hard decisions, and this is my first bite at this apple, so I'm learning as I go, and I know somewhere along the line I'm going to stub my toe and bruise my knee, and it's just going to be a learning curve for me. So unless Kevin wins the lottery in the next couple of months, it's going to be kind of tough. But any other discussion?
No, I understand all sides of it as well. It's a big, on our stand, you know, we could always come in lower, and I hope that between now and the next workshop, we look at that, because you're even if that 25 exemption comes into play, it's 125,000. This is a whole lot more than that. So.
But if another hurricane hits, we have nothing. What do we do?
But it's not just about the 20, it's just not about the 25,000, right? It's
No,
about the
way I look at it,
savings.
it's about that $1 million balloon note.
Right, that's where I'm at.
Several other things that are in the shadows there that
Correct.
it's got to be taken care of.
That debt is the, you know.
It is for me.
You
And
can
it's
have,
true. I guess I'm overlooking the fact that the hurricane was a big impact.
Huge.
So I guess I could go along with it at this point.
well, it's given the flexibility, right? So we can all debate on whether debt is a good thing or bad thing within. There's going to be a certain amount of it, right? But how much and where's that responsibility? I think that's what you're speaking to at Mayor, is that
Well, yeah, and I've
coming
always
forward.
been,
Right, and I know how you feel about it too, Ralph, you know, and then we also got to have that reserve, so every time, you know, the auditors sit here, we sit there, I know I ask the questions, I know you do, we sit there, what's that percentage, where are we at, what should we be? And oh, by the way, what we are is a residential community that preaches quality of service. So I'm with you. I mean, I think we all, on a national level, view politics the same way, and conservatism and all, and to vote in tax increases almost makes you, you know, lose sleep at night. But there, you know, we do have a responsibility to, and again, this to me, to steal his, the mayor's quote, it's first bite of the apple for all of us at this time right now. So you sit there, we go through the budget workshop, we analyze it more. Again, if we put ourselves in a box right now, we've given ourselves no flexibility.
Yeah. Well, we never, ever proposed that much of an increase, I guess. It's kind of a little bit of a shock.
Right, right.
Well, we went from 5 to 7, 5 years, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
What was it? You've got it there.
The 25% increase.
We had 25%.
Remember that we had to do it. They were coming out of that recession, but we weren't coming out fast enough, and we'd already
Because we kept it level.
Backs and wrong backs.
We kept it level through the recession, and then
Yeah.
at some point we said, okay, we gotta. And
We
it
gotta
was-
do something.
It was a 25% increase.
That's been 4
Right after
years.
the people voted down the FPL acquisition. It was either the FPL acquisition or a 25% tax hike.
Right.
And no one was here to complain about 25% tax, which I found amazing.
But at the same time, we had a reduction in property values.
What year was it?
Whatever year that was.
In 2014 tax year, which would have been fiscal year 15, we went from 5.9 to 7.4.
3 years.
And we would have had a property increase.
Any other discussion? We have a motion, go ahead.
In public.
Anybody from the public that would like to speak on this issue?
I know, but it's...
Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board. All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Scott, if you would, 1707, ordinance.
Ordinance number 17-07 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City Council, City of South Daytona, Florida, repealing ordinance 16-10, which established a 12-month moratorium
on the growing, processing, manufacturing, distributing, dispensing, and selling of medical marijuana within the city limits, providing for severability, providing for conflicting ordinances, and providing an effective date.
I need a motion,
Move to approve.
Second?
discussion, or staff?
We talked about this at the last meeting. Quickly for the record, the state of Florida has pretty much decided to give you only two options. One, you allow medical marijuana, or two, you don't. If you do allow it, you need to regulate it in the same land use manner you would a drugstore. Finally, 72% of your constituency supported medical marijuana. You had a moratorium in place to see what the state did. State did it. Good news is we're not one of those cities that's out here amending ordinances that were adopted to regulate it that ended up being null and void with the state statute that was passed. So, as I spoke with you, you have two choices tonight. You can let this expire on its own, which would be this November. It was a 12-month moratorium, November or December. Two, you can turn around and initiate the first reading on the cancellation of the moratorium and let it go to state statute for regulation. Or three, you can turn around and let it expire and or remove the moratorium and adopt an ordinance that prohibits the sale of medical marijuana in the city. As I said, I skipped any, Scott? Okay. There's your options.
Discussion? Anybody?
Well, I shared some of my concerns the last meeting. I'd like to see the moratorium continue on and let it expire of its natural course. I have my reasons. I've shared that extensively with the city manager, but I know I'm probably in the minority there, so. But.
Ms. Long?
I guess the people have spoken that they want this. It is medical marijuana. It's not the hallucinogenic type drug that everyone with teenagers is afraid of. I think we should go ahead and end the moratorium, and then, if nothing else, it might bring in another business or two, which we desperately need in our city. So I support ending the moratorium.
I support ending it. Have we had anybody else come in and inquire? I know we had two.
Not since the last meeting, John. Nobody. Just yes or no?
No?
Thank
Okay.
you.
70% spoke. I think we need to end it.
This one is hard for me. This was one of those sleepless nights. I spent more sleepless nights with this one than I did with the budget. After 35 years of law enforcement, it's just hard for me to bite into it, but anyway. Do I need to invite the public for this one too, Scott?
No, this is his first reading.
Okay, it's first reading, so. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, it's the closest vote we've had in a long time.
Scott, if you would, ordinance 1708.
Ordinance number 17-08 by title only for first reading. An ordinance of the City Council, ordinance of the City of South Daytona amending this section 7.2 of the Consolidated Land Development Regulations to make modifications to bring the regulations into agreement with the most current FEMA-approved code companion floodplain management ordinance for Florida communities, providing for severability and providing for an effective date.
Need a motion?
Move to
Go ahead.
Move to approve.
We got a motion and a second.
We have a motion and a second.
And staff? Yes. This is good news. The FEMA, in all of its wisdom, went out and measured the river again and found that it wasn't as high as they thought it was. Mean level, they dropped it 2 feet, took a bunch of people on the river out of the flood zone. Hallelujah. We have to adopt this if you want to take advantage of it.
Me too.
Any discussion?
This one we might not have to lose sleep over.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
Well, no, this is great. I was flabbergasted when I saw it. Speechless.
Only FEMA and the Lord can raise and drop oil.
That's it. Fantastic.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries. All right, D says consideration of approving a special exception for 2690 South Ridgewood to permit the indoor sign manufacturing for business Signosaurus. It passed the LDRB on June 21st, 2017. I need a motion.
Move for approval.
Second.
Any staff on this material?
Just briefly, if you recall, last 2 of your council meetings, you spent toying over an ordinance to allow some light manufacturing to take place under certain conditions in the redevelopment zone of your city. And this activity had to take place indoors. We have an applicant going to take a vacant lot, going to improve it. Staff endorses it. It's right up the alley, in my opinion, on what you envisioned when you approved the ordinance enabling this type of construction and use.
Well, a couple of things. It's a positive mood. Anytime you see a piece of vacant property being developed, and I've been in his business with the current location, he runs a nice, clean business, and I'd say let's welcome him.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's been in business over 13 years, no complaints, and I think these are the kind of business people that we really need to encourage to come to our city and also stay in our city.
Good stuff, Mayor.
I agree. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consideration of authorizing the execution of FP&L Solar Now lease agreements for future installations at city parks. Need a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any staff?
Yes. We got plenty of staff on it, but I'll make a stab at it. Larry is here on it with the Florida Power and Light also to answer any questions that you may have. In reading somewhere, I ran across where Florida Power and Light had kind of a pilot program where they were demonstrating the benefit of solar power in public places. Staff reached out, Patty reached out to Larry. Larry immediately got somebody in here that heads up the project. It's relatively new, pilot project, and you've got the examples of what they were willing to consider putting up in your parks. And let me just make sure all of you understand, this is more educational than it is beneficial. I think it signifies what's to come. I think it's benefit. It's not tangible in the sense of money, dollars and cents. It's more of an educational opportunity. What we're coming to you today and asking you to do is approve the leases proposed by the generic with some changes that they've accommodated from your city attorney, and allow then the Parks and Rec Board to do its job. And what will happen if you approve these leases is the Park and Rec's director will sit down, and I'm going to get out there again and find some sites that are accommodating for both parties and allow them to put these up. Now, I know that it's going to be interesting to see how the Parks and Rec Board addresses some of these, but I don't think that, I'm sure we can accommodate a number of them. And I can't really find a downside to it. I think that solar is obviously here, and Florida Power and Light wants to make sure the public's aware that they're doing their job, and not only educate, but to capture it. And the power source. We've got 4 parks we identified, if I'm not mistaken, in our the drive around that I didn't make that day. Larry was there, but Riverfront has been targeted. Blaine O'Neill Park on Big Tree was targeted, as well as Reed Canal Park. That's all I think I've got to report. Making sure I've spoken with all of you individually and reviewed.
Pretty hard to find a negative aspect of that.
Just so I'm clear, there's no money on our part, and they don't pay us anything for the leases.
That's right, unless you do that canopy lease, and there's some discussion that's got to take place on that. There's some, but it's not something that's going to sway you one way or the other. You're not going to retire them.
No, I saw some of the figures. They were kind of small.
We're going to get, I know, Joe, when we talked, we weren't sure, outlets out of it, at least a brand.
I'm hoping, and Larry and I touched on that today, that we're going to, when they dig the trench, that we're going to be able to, they have to, when they put these systems in, they've got to meter it. So it's got to be close to one of their meters so they can catch the force of electricity going back in their system, or quantify it. When that trench is open, I'd love to be able to get another breaker put in there and put us something for 110, 220 to accommodate outside amplification and or the hot dog wagon or other future uses. Because as you know, we had a huge demand for electricity, and they ended up bringing in generation because of the lack of availability when we did much rather bought it from Florida Power and Light for that Robo Festival. And I see them coming back every year. And then we have, of course, the Indian Festival. And we have quite a few needs for power sources. I'm not going to commit to that because we haven't really sat down with them and gone over that. But we're going to strive for that. I don't see any sense in digging a trench twice.
Right. Well, I think especially Blaine O'Neill, the logic, and I'll speak as a golf cart owner, is to have somewhere that you can plug in your golf cart.
Never thought of that. It won't be solar powered, but you understand that. That goes back in, but it doesn't mean that we can't then meter our power back out.
Yeah, good optic. But when I was in Nevada early in the year, I saw them everywhere. There was an entire outlet mall that had the covered ones for the parking, just as far as you could see. So, of course, where the sun always shines in the desert, but it's
the mall down in the Sunshine Mall.
Yeah.
Looks good. Just nothing but flat concrete asphalt.
Yeah, I went shopping there today, and I was thinking, boy, we could sure use some of those solar shade panels over the cars. So, Larry, can you put that on the agenda, too? Yeah, I think, and really, our city has been so innovative with the redoing of our Ridgewood, and I think that we could become trendsetters and also be known as an environmentally friendly city with this. It's just another little friendly aspect, positive aspect for our city, which might draw in some businesses. So.
I like it. I thought it was a great idea. Yeah. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is unscheduled council member comments. We'll start with Mr. Schoner.
I want to commend the staff for getting that $500,000 grant, and hopefully the additional couple hundred.
I believe we're going to, and you know what? That's an excellent example of why we have lobbyists. They worked that hard. They were in constant contact with us. We coordinated with where they told us to, when to do it. And I can't remember getting an appropriation of that size that the governor didn't veto. It just was one of those deals.
This is one of those revenue generators, but it's just not going to do us any good next year.
No.
It's coming.
So, good move.
Okay. No, besides that, no other comment.
Vice Mayor?
I just want to thank you, Mayor, and as City Manager, because he knows I wore his ear out the last couple of years this thing, and so sending the letter to the superintendent and getting that from Mr. Russell, because I do think that, I know probably just because of the age of my own kids and families, the number of families that we've had move out of South Daytona because of our school district. And they flat out tell me to my face. So, you know, and I've been on this council 6+ years, and the only time anyone from Volusia County School Board or anything has ever been in this chamber is to sit there and ask us to support them at a 0.5-cent tax increase. So it's time for them to pony up and start telling us how we're going to be part of the solution. I also know that Holly Hill is also seriously concerned because they have that, 6 through 12 middle high school combination. And I was talking to the mayor there today, and he's getting nowhere because he's wanting them. So to get a response like you did we're at least making better progress than some of our other cities. So that was kind of the good news, dream news. But hey, we've got a Dunkin' Donuts now, so we're a real city. So right? First thing my son did on Saturday morning, we went down to Dunkin' Donuts when we found out it was open. So there we go. We've already gone a couple times. So we'll be wearing that out. So so no, all good stuff. And thank you to the staff and finance. I know this is not easy time with looking at the budget. So with some of the things that the council's presented to you, thank you for working through that stuff. So that's all I have.
Yeah, and I want to thank you also. You gave us a great, long, but very detailed. I think you did a great job with that. I, too, am very concerned about South Daytona's rating, and I guess maybe even with the city, we need to figure out what can be done to help bring up I guess the standards of the school or something. I'm really shocked because I've been out of the country and I didn't even know about that. And other than that, I guess that's my comments.
I'll end with a couple of comments of my own. The rowboat, Greg, I was there with you. You busted your butt. And I got to tell you, my hat's off to you, how you pulled it all together. I was appreciative. The hot dog wagon had its debut. It has a new coat of paint on it, thanks to Waste Pro. What's the division? Waste Pro Restoration.
They take care of their own vehicle. They got an antique or a historic museum of refuge trucks, garbage trucks.
I guess we all got.
So they have a division that does that restoration, and then they have another division that takes care of all the rolling stock. And I think we were in the restoration division with the hot dog wagon. They got the more detailed paint job.
They did an outstanding job, Ralph. I sure appreciate you being there and volunteering. And it was good to see all the folks out. If you didn't get a rock, I got a rock, and they made us a bunch of them that we're going to show later. They painted hot dog people on rocks and gave them out, and when the kids found them, they got free hot dog meal, which was kind of neat because then they turned around and paid us for them. Vented. First Step, just to keep you all in the loop on First Step, the meeting we had today, I was a little frustrated that we only meet once a month, so we are going to meet twice a month, at least for this month and next month, to keep the ball and the momentum rolling. It's my understanding that Ormond Beach has someone coming on the board, hopefully by the end of this month, as well as Port Orange. Port Orange had a stumbling block with D&O insurance, and we solved that problem today, hopefully. Faith Group came in today and made an $18,000+ donation that they had collected over the last couple of months. And if y'all read this morning's paper, there's several other places. There's also some private donations that came in from people. I have no idea who they are, but they opened up their hearts and their checkbook and made some donations. So I'm just keeping you guys in the loop with that. Brandon, if we get somebody from the school board here, I'll be amazed. I know the email said they would be here.
Yeah.
We'll see. And Kevin, I know I wore you out. I probably got the record for the longest meeting, but I appreciate your patience and my questions. And on that, I'm done. Meeting adjourned.